So Bad Boys 2 is a sequel to the first Bad Boys that came out in 1995. This movie was also directed by Michael Bay. So yeah man, we're gonna get loads of explosions again. Yeah, that's great. So there's a big jump in this sequel. Like the first one came out in 1995. This one came out in like 2003. So there's like a big gap, which is not always a good thing because sometimes it can just feel like those type of movies where it was a sequel that we didn't need. Yeah, I don't think this movie should have been made. If I'm being honest, I don't think this movie should have been made. So this movie is pretty much the same concept as the first, except you just got a new guy that's, you know, handling drugs. He wants to be like the Miami King in terms of like a, you know, the drug lord. And this guy is literally putting drugs, yeah, in dead bodies. Yeah, I know, that's crazy, man, that's crazy. But yeah, that's literally the plot. And you basically got Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's character that come back, you know, this Miami detectives trying to stop this guy. And you also have like Martin Lawrence's sister, who's also a cop, undercover cop, that's trying to take this, you know, drug dealer down. And nothing really too different from this movie, if I'm being honest. Pretty much every cast in this film is the same. You've got the Miami boss, you know, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's boss. You got Will Smith, Martin Lawrence's kids, which, you know, they don't really add anything to the film. They're kind of just there in the background. I wasn't really a fan of the characters in this movie. Like, you have like the same characters, like I said, but it's just not the same as it was in the first one. And I mean, you still got the, you know, dynamic between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith's character, Marcus and Mike, and you still have the good dialogue between each other. But then at times you kind of have Martin Lawrence always like constantly complaining about certain scenarios. You kind of just get fed up with his character because all he does is literally blame everything on Will Smith's character, and it just gets a bit repetitive, and I feel like it adds nothing to the story. It's just more repetitive things. He did that in the first one, but it wasn't as annoying because I guess because it just worked more because number one was more of like a classic. It had more of a 90s feel to it, so I felt more like a different movie. I mean, Will Smith, he was Will Smith, you know, nothing different. The same character from the first, just older. Both of them are older. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are older. That's actually the difference in this film. I really didn't like the villain in this movie. He was just really corny, and I just felt like he just didn't add anything. He was literally just a drug dealer that was trying to take over Miami. That's it, literally. There was nothing to him. He was just corny as hell. He was like, just like, if we're talking about cartoon villains, he's literally a cartoon villain. He has nothing to the story. He wasn't funny. He was just, you know, boring to watch, if I'm being honest. I did notice one of the drug dealers from Prison Break that's in this sequel as well, which I thought was interesting. He was the only one that I kind of noticed, only because he was like the, you know, OG in the Prison Break series, which I liked his character a lot. So when I kind of watched this movie, I was kind of reminiscing about his character from the, you know, Prison Break series. And he also played like the sort of similar character in Prison Break, basically, you know, a drug dealer, mob boss, or whatever you want to call it. And you know, Martin Lawrence's sister in this film, she was just kind of like, you know, there for the sake of being there. She didn't really add anything. She was just a typical undercover cop that really didn't really stand out to me personally. So once again, you know, explosions, shooting. But then again, I wasn't surprised because, you know, Michael Bay, he always does this, explosions, which is fine. I don't really mind. It's just, you know, after a while for me, it just gets a bit boring and you just kind of want to see something different. Because it's almost like, you know, they use explosions as a way to, you know, make the movie seem like it's better or make it seem like it's cool because there's lots of explosions happening and a lot of, you know, visuals taking place. I feel like with the Bad Boy franchise, it works more as like a 90s classic film. They can get away with more things. You can kind of look back and look at it as like a, you know, OG classic. But I just don't think it does well in the present time as a early 2000s movie. It just doesn't really replicate the same as the first one. But I feel like once again, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are like the stars of this whole franchise because they elevate the movie even when it's not as great. Because you still get like certain dialogues to where, you know, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are interacting and it still like engages you to carry on watching the film even though the pacing is still suffering. Like, I think the action is the same, the comedy is the same. With the action you get, you know, the same old stuff, explosions, people shooting at each other. You get a little bit more, you know, fight scenes and stuff, but more so like comedic fight scenes where it doesn't last too long, but it's still, you know, somewhat funny and stuff. But like I said, I still consider these type of movies a comedy with a little bit of action, but I don't think it was anything special to really, you know, watch in terms of the action. Detective, drug dealer, you gotta take the drug dealer down, same old. The visuals are still the same, you know, you get those like slow motion shots, you get to see these like close-up angles of when, you know, bullets are sometimes firing, which is, you know, the same as they did in the first one. Nothing really really different. If anything, you could say that Michael Bay tried to top what he did in the first one in terms of upping the action, upping the, you know, visuals, upping the explosions. Some people might like that. For me, not really, because I'm more about story. Like, I feel like the story was being told through the visuals and not actually the characters. I think if you like the first one, you might like the second one, since it's still the same things, but just more of a higher level in terms of visuals and, you know, explosions and stuff. So you probably will like it. But for me, this movie was, you know, it was nothing really to talk about. I don't really have much to say about this movie in particular because nothing interesting to me happens. Yeah, anyways, that's it. Subscribe, like, let me know what you thought about this, you know, film.